Back to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. You were on a couple of years back, episode 8. And here's the thing, right? This is a small victory, right? It is probably it is the most viewed interview session on my YouTube. So people are loving you. So I'm really glad to have you back.
That's lovely. Thank you for having me back. I can't believe it's been a couple of years.
I know, right? It's been crazy. And it's been a crazy year as well. And we were just talking off air just then about it's a nice, for our watchers and our listeners, we're recording this on Christmas Eve. So it's a nice time for us to look back at what's been a very interesting year. And like, have you been, like, it's a very broad question, but how have you been the last couple of years since you came on?
Yeah, okay. It's been an interesting couple of years, I suppose, with highs and lows before the last 9 months. I think career-wise, family-wise, it's all just been a little bit like just juggling, like we all are. But yeah,
Yeah.
doing okay. I can't complain really. I feel like we've got to this point in life and doing okay and content. So yeah, that's a good thing.
I love that. And I also want to say thank you for taking your time out earlier in the year to join our Master Heart and Mind leadership group as well. Like, the team loved being around you. It was like you've got a natural positive energy. Maybe it's not natural, maybe you work on it, but you've got this wonderful energy and vibe. But there was also the side to you that was honest and was real. And we were all going through the middle of lockdown. I think the team really valued the kind of wisdom that you brought to that conversation.
Oh, that's good. And that is encouraging to me because I've definitely got to a point in my life and in my career where I just feel like being honest is the best thing. Sometimes we do have to choose our words carefully depending on the company which we're in.
Sure.
But I feel like people often put those of us that are in the public eye on a pedestal, and I quite like to sort of shatter that illusion occasionally and just show that we are so real. I'm trying to be the most real I can be and be transparent, because I think even for me, scrolling through Instagram or other social medias, you think, oh, everyone's got it all together and it looks so great and life's wonderful. And, we often put on a front because we need to protect ourselves. But equally, I think showing those cracks, showing those vulnerabilities actually gives other people hope and also permission to be able to feel the same way. Because that's one thing that I think that I aspire to those that have got it all together. I'm like, but do they? Not totally sure they do.
And I think people love it when they see that everything isn't the way that they think it is, because parenting for me specifically, it's a game changer, and it's really difficult. And I was speaking to someone only yesterday. They were like, "Are your kids excited for Christmas? How are they?" And I'm like, "They're killing each other. they are loving each other one minute, and they're killing each other." And we both looked at each other as if to say, "Oh, thank Lord, it's not just me." Yeah, it's amazing. And I think the one thing that I found really interesting is that in my own journey is that I sidestepped a lot of conversations around faith last time that you were on. It was like I had an awareness that you were involved in the church, not quite as aware as the prominence that you have within the church, particularly with Alpha. And I sidestepped a lot of that because I just wasn't in that headspace, heart space. And I've had Jesus was knocking on my door for a long time, and I kind of let him in last year. And I'd love to kind of dedicate some of this time together to kind of dive into that space, if you will. And I'd just love to know, or at least help our listeners understand what Alpha is. And I think 2021 and is going to be a huge time for, if they haven't already discovered faith throughout 2020. What's your kind of view on what the world needs right now? It's again a broad question, but how can people find faith?
I think everybody needs hope right now. We all just need something to hold on to get us through this season. And for me, hope is a person, and that person is Jesus. And I don't know how people are managing without that crutch, without that backbone that for me is my faith in Jesus, because it is so tough. Even with my faith in Jesus, it's tough. So having that as something that is so prominent in my life, I depend on that. I make choices based on my faith. I am who I am because of my faith, and I'm trying to be better every day because of my faith. And that's not saying that people that don't have faith aren't doing all those things or being all those things. But for me, I don't know how else to do it. And so I feel like Jesus is this incredible role model who was so incredibly loving and kind and generous, feisty, very powerful in his words, and he loved very well. He stood up for what he knew was right, and I think in a world where there is often very little integrity, I feel like the position that I have in the media, in my community, in my family, I still need to try and have that integrity that Jesus had, because he led a life that was just full of great examples of how we can be good and be better, and how we can help other people to get to those places too, therefore making the world a much nicer place to live in. And so my faith is, it's so who I am right now and who I have been for a long time. So I grew up going to a Baptist church in Trowbridge in Wiltshire, down where you are. And I just had a real sense of this guy, Jesus, like again, like you said, kind of knocking on the door, kind of getting at you. And I had to resist, because I felt like fighting it was more tiring than actually resisting and then being flooded with love and peace and the contentment. And it's because it's not like being happy, because happy and contentment and joy are very different. And I feel like I had a deep joy, a contentment, even when I'm unhappy, weirdly, which is reassuring to be able to have that. And so having hope that, especially in this season that we're in, because it is a season, it will pass, but we will learn from this season. And much like seasons, it might come back again, as we're kind of finding at the moment. And so we've learned throughout the last 9 months how to now deal with these current situations, these current times. But having that hope, knowing that Jesus is there, tangible, something I can see, something I can feel, something that I can project, is just reassuring. And so having been part of like Alpha, like you mentioned, which is a brilliant course, which has now, much to Nikki Gumbel's surprise, been shifted online and is so successful. He even thinks now it's more successful that it's online than it was when it was face to face, because so many of us have got questions about faith and life and meaning. We don't want to have those difficult conversations, or some of us do, and we really want to have a conversation. And so sometimes face to face isn't always the best, most convenient way to do it. So to be able to do it now online, people are safe because they're in their homes. They can turn their cameras off if they are feeling uncomfortable or awkward. They can mute themselves if their discussion's getting heated, all these things that we couldn't do in real life. And so I feel like people are now able to do it. And people that have resisted going along to an Alpha course before kind of don't have much of an excuse. Like our family life.
It's amazing, and I did an online Alpha course during lockdown. So through West Wilts Vineyard, and through James Green. I think you know James, and so shout out to James. He was the leader of that, and took us through. And there was a few of us from the local community, but we also had people from further away who wouldn't have been able to journey with us in that way if it had been face to face. So it was it was nice to be a guinea pig, really. It was a case of, okay, let's just see how it goes, and just brings a different space to it, doesn't it? And it is funny because my wife did an Alpha course about 18 months ago, and I was just like, I'm not for this. Like, I'm a man of science, and the character of Jesus, like I really admired his character and his leadership, and so I'd already accepted him for the character that he was. But I was a man of science, and it was not until I went to kind of Big Church Day Out, and it really kind of shattered my perceptions of what it looks like being a Christian. I'd never grown up seeing people like me with faith. It was always that kind of building with a steeple. It was always the rows of seats, and it was always that awkwardness at the end where people would say peace be with you, and, that didn't feel like me. So but then I start surrounding myself with people like James, who's wearing a denim jacket and a cool haircut. I start interviewing cool people like yourself, and I've got loads of friends in America who I've interviewed before, and all Christians. And it's not until I watched the episode of Alpha where it's talked about the Council of Saints. I'm like, people have been surrounding me for a long time. Like, people have been subtly influencing me for a very, very long time. And yeah, and I just want to thank you for being part of that. You're one of my saints for sure.
It's been a real pleasure to be a part of your journey, because I remember our first conversations and there was just something in me that I thought, I know that I could really just sense that you were searching for something and you weren't entirely sure what, or you just weren't brave enough to step out at that time. And then so the kind of texts that we've had to and fro over the last couple of years, I just feel like it's been a real privilege to journey this with you, and I am so delighted, as I know your wife is and many of your friends are. So it fills me with so much joy to see your journey, because it is real, and I think it's very current, and I think that a lot of people are feeling how you felt, and so this is another opportunity for hope.
It's interesting. Yeah, and the one thing I was not searching for was Jesus. I can tell you that right now. He searched me out, and I in June on Father's Day kind of let him in. But that was a heart experience. I think the benefit I had is that I had a heart experience, and my mind would never have understood that. And I think if I had tried to persist understanding it intellectually, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. And it's interesting you say the word hope. You know, many Christians have, like, in their bios, their life verse, don't they? And I quit my job in November, and I never really had a prayer life, but I just looked, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, help me. And within 48 hours, I got sent reference to Jeremiah 29:11 twice, which is exactly what you're saying is about, you know, plans to give you hope and a future. And it's like, right, I'm listening.
Oh yeah, because it also says plans to prosper you, and who doesn't want to be prosperous, especially in this
100%.
time when people are losing work.
You know, and surrender has never been my favorite idea. Like, you know, I've grown up single parent family. My mum has been the epitome of kind of resilience and independence, and I ain't asking for help. So surrender, I don't know. How do you find, is surrender something you've had to learn, or is it something that you've grown up with naturally?
No, I'm exactly the same as you. Grown up in parent family. I mean, my dad was around, but my mum pretty much raised me just again down the road from you, and in Trowbridge, and she is fiercely independent, and that is something that she has definitely instilled in me to be able to thrive and survive in the big wide world. And so then meeting my husband, that has been a battle to be able to give up some of that independent woman that I've alongside Destiny's Child, trying to feel like I've got it all together and doing my own thing. And it's hard, and we've been married for over 6 years now, and it's a daily choice to try and surrender. And I'm sure he's probably getting ready next door, like listening and like nodding, because it's a daily thing, and I know that I need to be better at that in terms of my marriage relationship. But in terms of surrendering to God, like in a way, I'm just like, do you know what? Have it. I really can't carry this anymore. Or the things that I have carried that I'm still trying to like let go of. It's kind of even though I'm holding things really tightly, it's kind of like his hand is there, just waiting for the release. And sometimes when I do, like eventually, like, okay, you can have that, and like he's got it. I'm like, oh, okay. Why was I resisting so much? And I mean, it's easier said than done. And often for those that are going through situations, hearing things like this, you just think, oh, it's a bit twee, and like, yeah, it's lovely and I like that, but I can't do that. And I'm not saying that the things that I've had to surrender have been easy. There have been some things that have been a massive sacrifice, but also things that have been really good for me to be able to give up. And it's only once you've given them up, kind of gone through that grieving process, had a bit of time to heal, and then in retrospect, you're like, oh, that's why I had to give that up. It would really destroy me. And it's not easy, because often we hold on to those things that are painful because they're like a comfort, or they're like a trophy. I've been hurt, I've been damaged, so I'm going to carry this resentment and this bitterness because you've really hurt me. I'm going to hold on to this. But eventually it's like, I think we talk about in Alpha, it's like, well, it's like having the whole, like, drinking the poison hoping the person that's going to hurt you is going to die. Actually, no, you're the one that's dying. And so, like, no, you've got to let that go, because you need life. You need to release yourself to be free from those things. And it doesn't happen quickly. And even when you come to faith, it still doesn't happen quickly. It's a journey. But then you're in a safe place. You're surrounded by people who are your cheerleaders. They're championing you on to get better, to feel freer, to live a life that is wholesome, that is free, because you are redeemed. You can start again. It's like, when do we ever get a chance to start again? You know, we can like Control Alt Delete our lives by coming to know Jesus. Like, why would we not do that? It's like the best way to start again.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the key things that we talked about a couple of years back was this sense of doing what you love. And you know, Peter talks about the gifts that we have, we're meant to serve others with them. And you know, I think that's one thing that you've really been able to do throughout your career, is use your gift for, I guess, would you call it entertainment? I remember you sharing a very specific story about entertaining at a party. You know, how have you had to adapt over the last year? Maybe things have been different. I don't know. Maybe your career has been able to continue in lockdown. But what's kind of changed about the way that you're trying to use your gifts and your talents this year?
I think for me, I had a prophetic word, so a word from God that came through a person when I was 16 at a youth conference called Soul Survivor, which used to meet down in Shepton Mallet. And this word was that I would be salt and light in the dark place of the media. And salt brings flavor, and light illuminates the dark places. And so, having this word when I was 16, I was like, okay, this is pretty epic to be able to go into the world of the media, the secular world where God often is absent, and bring Jesus, bring God into that. And so going to be able to do that kind of thing was daunting, but knowing that God had called me into that, I felt like that was what I was meant to do. And he has given me all the tools and all the opportunities along the way to be able to fulfill that, which is incredible. So when I then had opportunities for doing things like Alpha, and I was like, why am I doing something in the Christian world, which is already bright and full of people that are light and salty? Like, why do you need me to do that? Because that wasn't what you wanted me to do. But actually, it was all about learning my craft in the secular world, kind of building up that resilience, trusting God, and then taking all of that to serve him in a place where Christian media hasn't always been the greatest. So being able to take a level of professionalism and an authority from the experience that I've had into that world. But then there was still a little bit of reluctance from me, because I didn't feel qualified to share my faith publicly. I haven't been to theology school. I haven't read the Bible from beginning to end. You know, I didn't feel like I was completely the right person always to do it. But God doesn't want us to be perfect or to be the right person all the time. He just wants us to be willing to do things. And so I was willing to do it with the experience that I had, with the experience that I had in TV, to be able to take it to things for the church. And so then getting to now, where I've had 17 years been working in telly, and then to get to lockdown where all of my jobs went. So all the festivals like Big Church Day Out you mentioned before, they'd all just gone. So everything that I was planning to do disappeared. All my TV work, I was actually in the middle of filming in Glasgow for the BBC whilst as lockdown happened. So the series got canned. So then I'm just like, okay, well, now what do I do? Well, all of a sudden, all of these churches are like, oh my goodness, we need to put things online. We need someone to share a message. We need someone to do a kid's Bible story. We need this, that, and the other. And so I'm getting all these messages saying, Gemma, can you do this? Gemma, can you do that? And I'm just like, again, sat here in our spare bedroom, and I've like broadcast around the world over the last 9 months, just sat on a futon, like in a spare room, and been able to do the most incredible things. And so, like the rest of the world, I've had to be a TV presenter, which I've had 17 years practice to get to this point. So in a way, like, I've been winning, which is incredible. And I've been able to see so many other people come through this time and be able to coach them through it. So I've become an online coach, helping people to actually present to this little dot they're looking at that's a camera on their iPad or on their computer or on their phone, and actually build a relationship with the person on the other side of it. And so this has been a completely new thing for me. I mean, I've done lots of presenter training in the past, but not necessarily how to combat Zoom fatigue and still look like you're enjoying yourself, and people are able to connect with you, and being able to do that. So it has changed completely. And then to really answer your question, I guess I've just been able to do a lot of hosting for my own church and be able to do things for that, which has taken me out of my comfort zone, I won't lie, because I think having been trained by the BBC, working in secular television, where you can't necessarily profess your faith quite so openly, although in this season I've started working for Songs of Praise, so that's kind of like the God irony, which I love. But so being able to really then share my faith openly in a live church service where the Holy Spirit moves and prophetic words come, or tears of joy or sorrow flow, I've had to unlearn a lot of my kind of presenter training and actually just let the real Gemma flow and release again. And so that's been difficult at times because I feel even more vulnerable on a very different level. But like I said at the beginning, it's all about being transparent and people seeing that I do also have those vulnerabilities, and being able to want to inspire other people to let themselves be free as well.
And that's such an encouragement because, 17 years, top of your game, and you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still out on the water. And I think that's such encouragement because, too many people, I think with social media and that comparison, people can often feel so far behind, they're so far away, and we're all a work in progress, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I definitely have not got all my things together.
Maybe tomorrow for one day of the year at least.
Yeah, just a chill day tomorrow. I think we can just plateau tomorrow. We can just enjoy the day. But it's funny because you talk about parenting and how that in itself has challenges. I've just realised that we're celebrating a birthday tomorrow, and kids get excited about birthday parties. And for me, I feel like as an adult, there's a childlikeness that has reawoken in me in terms of Christmas being a birthday celebration. And like that's why I'm getting excited. It's the birth of Christ. Jesus' birthday. Like we're gonna sing happy birthday to Jesus tomorrow in our house. Actually gonna do that. And why not? Because it's celebrating a birthday, and the whole world gets to celebrate if they choose to. Which people do, even if they don't realize why they're celebrating. They still like to celebrate Christmas. Like, how amazing is that? I love it.
We will join you in that. I think we will absolutely join you. There's lots to celebrate and be thankful for. We talked about life verses. Mine's Jeremiah 29:11. Do you have one?
Oh gosh, yes. And it's the one in Timothy that talks about and don't let people look down on you because you were young. And even though I'm 38 now, that has been something that's been with me from being very young. And I feel like I'm still younger than other people who often I feel inadequate in their company because of their age and their wisdom, their authority. And I don't need to still. And I don't need to fear that.
Just be an example.
Yeah.
Be an example as you are.
Yeah. And also I think sometimes challenge them to not feel like they have a superiority because they're older and more experienced and wise, because they can still learn too. And I love that about the leadership in the church that I'm involved with, that they definitely love the younger leaders and they encourage the younger leaders. And I also want to be one of those more mature leaders that encourages the next generation too. And so that verse is for me, but it's also for me to project other people and who are younger in faith or younger in years.
I think 30s is a really interesting time because I don't think you have the validation of being wise by the older generation, and yet the younger generation go, you're old, you're definitely old. So we're in this halfway house where we're trying to figure out who we are, what's important to us. We're not getting the validation from above. The next generation are actually looking to us, and and I just, again, further encouragement to you that Alpha series. Christian media can take a bit of a knock in sometime because it's not always the best. It's fantastic. It was brilliant. It was meaningful stories. And some of the places you got to visit too. Like, what was that like going to the homeland? And really, did you did you feel spirit while you were there?
Oh, it was thick with Jesus. You can't help but feel so special knowing that your Lord and Savior, whom you love and adore and whose life you want to emulate, you're actually walking in the places that he walked. And we stood and we looked out over the Mount of Olives. And you're like, just look at what happened here. This is incredible. Look at the stories that we read about, the things that physically happened here, looking at Lake Galilee, and then thinking, hang on a minute. So there was a massive storm that happened on this lake. And yet when you're standing there, like, it's not that big. It must have been a huge storm for them to not be able to get across this thing. Wow, you don't realize that. And then just where Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount, and you're looking at, he was so smart. He literally chose like an amphitheater because it's just like a big dip. And so of course you're going to stand somewhere, people are going to come in and listen to you, and your voice is going to be able to travel around, people are going to hear you. You're like, yes, look at this thing. Just brilliant. Like, you just think even more so, what a legend, Jesus.
Yeah,
so
100%. And do you know the funny thing is, like, there's a lot of talk about self-care out there, self-care, self-love, and I'm really seeing that through scripture. It's like he's serving, and he just takes himself off to the mountains. So he knew all about this self-care. He would go and recharge.
Yeah, and it's so important to do that. And I think that we're very good at not doing it because we feel, especially as parents, that we need to be on the go all the time. We're serving other people. We're trying to be the best we can be for our other half or our family. And actually, no, to be the best you can be, you need some time to look after yourself so that then you can give your best to those around you. And Jesus, and oh my goodness, if Jesus was God in human form and he needed time out, we're not God, so we definitely need time out.
Absolutely. I've loved having you back on. I'd love to know what's giving you hope for 2021.
I think it's like new beginnings, a fresh start, but no pressure. And I think that so often we think about New Year's resolutions, and I won't be setting any because I just feel like I just want to be open-minded to what's happening and to hold everything lightly. And that's not because I don't care, or it's just because I feel like it's better to, if you love, then hold lightly. And because things are changing, times are changing, things that are out of our control. And I think in order to manage my mental health and my hope and my faith, then I just need to love well and to hold things lightly so that I don't feel disappointed or panic or worry. These are all going to happen, but I feel like if I prepare myself to hold things lightly and just to give myself a bit of a break, then that's okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you well, your family well, for this Christmas time and beyond. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And God bless you guys too, and all that you're doing, Ryan. You are such an inspiring guy, and I love your story. I love your honesty. And I'm very honestly proud of you for what you've achieved. Keep going.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.